So let's talk transfers then. Look, some of the big transfer stories of the day in the company of Will Pugh, Sun's assistant sports editor. Hi, Will.
Gents, how are you?
Yeah, we're not too bad.
Thanks.
Thank you, not too bad. You're out in Oz, I understand, for the Women's World Cup. Is that right?
I am. Yep, touchdown in Perth a few hours ago, trying to get my body clock in order. West Ham, a couple of pre-season games, seeing West Ham Perth Glory tomorrow, then the Tottenham game Tuesday before onto Women's World Cup duty.
Fantastic.
Wow,
well,
what a
enjoy.
trip. Fabulous.
Let's talk about
I
Willian.
will, yeah.
Let's talk about Willian. In your paper today, there's a story suggesting that although Fulham would like to re-sign him after that excellent season he had, maybe he's angling for a bit more money, or he's putting the feelers out. Forest are showing an interest. But I think it was Andy said he had such a good season there last year. He seemed very
There was a
happy.
big reason for that, because his family are settled in the area.
Yeah.
And as soon as he came back to the area, he was happy again. You could see it in his face. I don't understand these players. Why would he want to go somewhere else?
No, he does. He very much fits West London, doesn't he? He was obviously good at Chelsea. Same thing, performed well for Fulham last season. 5 goals and 6 assists. Slotted in quite nicely, age 34. Few questions about whether it would be fully committed. But, yeah, it turned out to be a good addition. He's officially a free agent at the moment. The story was that he didn't turn up for pre-season training, but, you know, he's not an employee of the club, so I don't suppose you'd go unless you had to. He's said to have had a medical at Forest on Thursday night, advanced talks at this stage with Forest as well. Fulham did make an initial offer, which he rejected. Forest are still said to be offering the most money at the moment, but you never know, Andy, do you? It could just be a negotiating tactic. He's gone up there and had the medical, which obviously shows some intent, but it has brought Fulham back to the table. They have made a rival offer, still, as I said, not as much as what Forest have got on the table. So expected over the next few days. A decision is expected pretty soon from Willian, but we'll find out whether it was just a negotiating tactic or he is keen on a move up north.
Well, he has got previous for this,
End up with Fulham.
hasn't he? You remember he actually turned up at Spurs, held up the shirt, had all
yes,
these pictures taken, and then walked away.
But it didn't work for him at Arsenal, so he needs to be careful.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, he had a good season last year. A bit of a blow for Fulham, especially if they lose other key players as well.
Solomon as well.
Yeah. So Harry Kane, on it goes. Your colleague Charlie White today reporting that a delegation came over from BeIN and maybe there was a little bit of a German breakfast yesterday. I don't know what that entails with Daniel Levy yesterday, and they sort of kicked ideas around, and apparently Daniel Levy said, you know, you've got to be going north of 100 million quid before we even start talking. Where are we at with this, you think, Will?
Well, quite like you said there, to be honest, it's one of those things. It seems a bit of a waste of a carbon footprint from the Germans to come over and be told in person that Daniel Levy won't accept anything less than 100 million. That's been fairly common knowledge for quite a while now. BeIN want to do a deal at 60 million quid. Kane, obviously, with a year left on his deal. With any other player, you'd suggest that was good value, but he's of such enormous value to Tottenham, of course, that Daniel Levy finds it very, well within his rights to dig his heels in for that 100 million quid. It's exactly what you said there, really, that Levy sort of made his stance clear. No real new information. BeIN are still, or reports in Germany are still suggesting that, Kane's keen on the move and that terms have been agreed. Tottenham, on the other hand, are still denying that any official bid has ever come in from BeIN, contrary to some reports so far. Bit of a strange situation. I think, to be honest, it is going to be one of those, as we've seen with Daniel Levy so many times before, that if they do want to do a deal by Munich, whether or not Kane's interested or not, they're going to have to come up with some serious money. He's been pictured in training. He's expected to take off for Perth with Tottenham, and I'm expected to watch him play on Tuesday in Australia. I think it's going to keep rumbling on, but it just comes down to BeIN have to stump up cash. It's going to be money talks if they're going to do anything, or we'll be looking at another summer where we spoke about Harry Kane all summer long and he turns up in the first game of the next season in a Tottenham shirt.
And yeah, there was a story about him being offered a new contract, but from his point of view, he'd be absolutely mad to sign that, because
financially he wouldn't be, but I know what you mean.
Yeah.
If he wants to leave his options open, that would be a strange one, but that's what they're working on. If Hugo Lloris doesn't travel to Australia, which is likely, then he'll probably be captain at some point. You guys will be sitting down in front of him around these matches. It's going to be interesting to see what he says.
Yeah, I to be quite honest, it'll be one of those. Tottenham will be a little bit careful, not really want to put him up if they can help it. But I just think he plays it well every summer, doesn't he? He always says, you know what you're going to get with Harry Kane. He's very well media trained. You know the answers he's going to give, how much he loves Tottenham, how committed he is to the cause. Can't help the speculation, etc., etc. He's going to say those things again. I don't know. I mean, you'll know better than me, Paul. Does this feel any different to the ones you've had before, the sagas we've seen before with Kane? Because everyone always either thinks he's definitely going to go or he's definitely going to stay, and then he rocks up and is Tottenham's best player by a mile for another season.
Well, this difference this time, of course, Will, is that he's only got a year left on his contract, so he holds all the cards. A couple of years ago with City, it was the club with 3 years left. The club held all the cards. That's the major difference. It will be interesting to see what happens. But let's move on to Villa. They could be looking to spend 30 million plus on the Leverkusen winger Moussa Diaby. They're also showing an interest in Brennan Johnson and might be using, according to Telegraph, Luca Dean as a bit of a make-weight in that because Forest are interested. But, I mean, obviously Forest, they rate Brennan Johnson about 50 million quid.
Yeah, it's a bit of a key player for them.
And I'm not sure Villa are going to be prepared to pay that.
No, quite. I mean, the Forest rejected a £30 million bid from Brentford last month. The word out of Forest seems to be 40 to 45 million would probably be acceptable to them. They're keen to sell just to ease some of their financial fair play concerns. Obviously made so many signings over the last 12 months or so. I think it would be a good move. Johnson's camp making noises that he'd be keen on the switch to Villa. 8 goals last season. Like you said, and he really is one of their most important players, isn't he? I think it'd be an excellent signing for Villa, who've already recruited well with Pau Torres and Yuri Tielemans. But you would worry, Forest only stayed up by 4 points last season. Some important goals and performances from Johnson. And it looks like if Villa can edge up towards the 40-45 million pound mark, that a deal could be done. They're also, like you said, they're looking at Moussa Diaby, who they've had their eye on for a couple of years from Bayer Leverkusen. Another £30 million rejected already. Another deal again, 40 to 45 million is what Leverkusen are looking at. Villa opted to sign Leon Bailey instead a couple of years ago, instead of Diaby, but they're now looking to let Bailey go and make a deal for Diaby if they can.
Yeah, it's interesting. Villa they could have a good season.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're building on the fact they've got into Europe and their Pau Torres is a good bit of business, so they've done well so far. And just finally, not everybody wants to go to Saudi. It seems Aaron Ramsey had an option there, but it looks like he's heading to Cardiff instead.
Absolutely, yeah. Finally, money doesn't talk, and there's still some romance and love left in football. Yeah, my colleague Phil Cadden, very close to the Wales camp, and lots of their players reported this a couple of weeks ago now, that there was interest from Cardiff. He's said to have passed a medical on Thursday, and Cardiff are just waiting for Nice to confirm that he's no longer their player and that they can bring him in on a free agent. And nice little romantic one to finish with. Excellent.
Well, I hope you get your body clock sorted out over there in Oz, and maybe we'll catch up with you over the next week around those Spurs-West Ham games and indeed the Women's World Cup. So for now, thanks, Will.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.